Hey, it's my first Nick Cage review. The meme man himself. What am I reviewing? Something ridiculous? Wicker Man? Ghost Rider? Ooh, I know, is it Bad Lieutenant? No? It's it's a slow boil black comedy? Okay. So I'm reviewing one of his unapologetically good movies. Well, that's a decision. Oh well. It's not like my videos get views anyway. Content warning. This movie and this review contain a lot of gun violence, probably some sexism and some sexy times, but mostly gun violence. Talking about gun violence, looking at gun violence, war with a lot of gun violence, and Nick Cage. Viewer discretion is advised. This review will contain spoilers for Lord of War and probably some other Nick Cage movies. Wicker Man is about a pagan cult that sacrifices him to get a good harvest or something. Also, seriously, this is actually a good movie. If you don't want it spoiled, watch it. I have to spoil the whole plot of this movie, and it's legitimately one of my favorite movies. So watch it, and then come back and watch this. Yuri Orlov is an arms dealer played by Nicolas Cage. After an intro that gives us some statistics about guns and the credit sequence, which is pretty well shot, Cage, as a voiceover, explains how he became an arms dealer. He's an immigrant from the Ukraine. His parents run an Eastern European Jewish restaurant that's pretty objectively failing. His parents pretended to be Jewish to make it to the States, and his father takes this pretty seriously.
In the 70s, to escape the Soviet Union, our family pretended to be Jewish. My father took his assumed identity to heart. He was more Jewish than most Jews, which drove my Catholic mother crazy.
I like it. I like the hat. To remind us there is something above us.
Yuri uses some of his father's connections at the temple to buy his first few Uzis. He convinces his reticent brother, Vitaly Orlov, played by the Joker himself, Jared Leto, to come along. They approach a senior arms dealer who snubs them entirely. But they catch a break in 1982 Lebanon, where they sell M16s to both sides of the war.
I got my first break in Lebanon after the suicide bombing. When the United States leaves a war zone, they generally don't take their munitions. It costs more to bring it back than to buy new stock.
Prior to becoming a security system seller, Ethan Hawke, playing Interpol agent Jack Valentine, confronts Yuri. But at this point, Yuri has become very good at lying. Some of the people that he's paying off inform him that Jack Valentine is heading his way to the boat that he is smuggling arms on. But thinking quickly, they change the boat's name from the Cristal to the Kono. Valentine wants to purge him, but it's not July 9th, so he lets them go. This time. A Colombian refuses to pay the Orlov brothers in cash and instead gives them cocaine. Yuri is not happy, but the drug lord injects him with happiness and lead at very high speeds. Yuri and Vitaly both try the cocaine, and it turns out that they like it. Vitaly really likes it. He steals an entire pack and runs off. Yuri doesn't understand this, but we as the audience know that it's really because he doesn't like running guns. He feels guilty for supplying people with murder machines. Yuri manages to convince Vitaly to go into rehab. After that, Yuri is gun running alone, but he pivots his interests to court Ava Fontaine, played by Bridget Moynihan, his favorite model from back home. They have a whirlwind romance and get married in a flash. Unfortunately for Yuri, she's not a fucking sociopath, and thus looks a lot better on paper than in real life to him. They have a kid who has his first steps on Christmas Day, 1991. Yuri will never forget that day. because that's the day that the Cold War ended. It turns out Yuri has some filthy commies in the family and convinces them to part with basically all of the weaponry that they had been stockpiling for years.
How many Kalashnikovs do you have?
40,000.
Is that a 4? Doesn't look like a 4 to me. Looks more like a 1.
No, it's a 4.
It's whatever we say it is, because no one else will know the difference.
The big shot arms dealer that snubbed the brothers from before tries dealing with Dmitri, Yuri's uncle, and then later with Yuri. But Yuri can't pass up the chance to burn someone, so he goes home empty-handed.
Inform your commanding officer that Simeon Weiss is here to meet him.
You look a little lost, Simeon. Is the world changing too fast?
Instead of cutting each other's throats, it may be beneficial if we work together. What do you think?
I think you should go with your instincts, with your first instinct. I'm the same man who was not good enough for you before, and I'm just not good enough for you now.
Business is good, but Jack Valentine is still trying to find his opening. But Yuri is still very clever. He has a mechanic remove the missiles from a helicopter so that he can exploit some loophole. He can't sell the missiles and the chopper together, but separately. That's legal, baby.
The helicopter's to be used on humanitarian missions.
Oh, so you're a humanitarian?
Oh, absolutely.
This is a military aircraft.
Not anymore. What can they do with military hardware but convert it to civilian use? The only way you could die from this baby now is if a food drop hits you.
And this stuff over here? Is that going to Burkina Faso as well?
But to a different client at a different address.
That's just a coincidence, is that it? You take me for a complete fucking fool!
Not complete, sir.
A little while later, Yuri's uncle is murdered. It is heavily implied that this is done by the rival gunrunner. Yuri starts selling to Andre Baptiste, played by Eamon Walker, the dictator of Sierra Leone, who pays in the souls of small children. I mean, blood diamonds.
Whoops, tautology!
Baptiste even gives Yuri the title of the movie.
You know, they call me the Lord of War. But perhaps it is you.
It's not Lord of War. It's Warlord.
Thank you, but I prefer it my way.
He said it! He said it!
Valentine apparently finds some plans to sell in Sierra Leone by digging through Yuri's trash and sends a fighter plane to intercept his flight. Yuri, panicking, decides to try and Americanize most of the people he meets by giving away free guns. Valentine keeps him for 24 hours, and we watch as Yuri's plane is stripped for parts in a time lapse. When he arrives in Monrovia, Andre pulls a war daddy, grappling with Yuri, and finally Yuri and Wise finish at the same time. But not in the same way. Valentine informs Ava what Yuri actually is, and Yuri tries to go straight. Look, we've all been there. But it's really hard to go straight when men like Tom Hiddleston exist. He does this for like 6 months, but Andre stops by and makes him an offer that he cannot refuse. Not because of murder or anything, or at least not his murder. Yuri enlists Vitali again, but Vitali is uneasy with this deal, because he can see all of the people that are about to be killed if the deal is made. He grabs a grenade and blows up a truck, only to be shot several times as he tries to blow up the second truck. Yuri, distraught, manages to finish the deal and go home. He brings back Vitali's body, but one of the bullets was not removed, and he's held up at customs. It turns out at one point Ava had followed him to Yuri's secret bunker, and she, in turn, was followed by Valentine. Valentine finally caught Yuri on something that he could be prosecuted on. Yuri calls his parents, but his mother says,
"But my sons are dead."
Ava won't answer him and is left with his son. Valentine gloats for a while.
There is hardly a warlord, dictator, or despot anywhere in the world that you're not on a first-name basis with.
But Yuri realizes that the US government is going to bail him out, presumably because he's white. He explains that the US occasionally needs people who can go outside the law and sell to the enemies of their enemies, and that because of this, he's going to be let go. Valentine doesn't believe him, but Yuri is usually right about these kind of things.
Enjoy it. Say everything you want to say to me now. Because you don't have long. Let me tell you what's going to happen. Soon there's going to be a knock on that door, and you will be called outside. In the hall, there will be a man who outranks you. First, he'll compliment you on the fine job you've done, that you're making the world a safer place, that you're to receive a commendation and a promotion. And then he's going to tell you that I am to be released. You're going to protest. You'll probably threaten to resign. But in the end, I will be released. The reason I'll be released is the same reason you think I'll be convicted. I do rub shoulders with some of the most vile, sadistic men calling themselves leaders today. But some of those men are the enemies of your enemies. And while the biggest arms dealer in the world is your boss, the President of the United States, who ships more merchandise in a day than I do in a year, sometimes it's embarrassing to have his fingerprints on the guns.
And he acknowledges that just because it happened today doesn't mean that he couldn't be a scapegoat for the same government tomorrow.
I did it for me. I liked it. I was good at it.
It's not about the money.
What is it?
I'm good at it.
So there are a lot of good themes in this movie. There are themes about how capitalism commodifies people, how you never really know someone, how the law can be toothless against real corruption, about how war profiteering isn't some bug of capitalism, it's born because of it. But instead, I'd like to focus on one line. The one line that ties this into Breaking Bad.
I'm good at it.
But there is a core of that in this movie. Yuri feels too good to exist in the same way that normal people do. This movie is literally just an abridged Breaking Bad, but with guns instead of meth. A talented but poor and down on his luck white guy decides to do something illegal instead of finding a better way to utilize his talents. Discovers that he's passionate about it and that people need him and that he can make a lot of fucking money on it. More money than most people can even dream of. He becomes addicted and can't stop. This is just as much of a high for him as Vitaly gets from coke and Jesse gets from meth. He loves him. And while he loves his wife and child, he wouldn't give this high up for anything. And like any addiction, it destroys his life.
My family has disowned me. My wife and son have left me. My brother's dead. Trust me, I fully appreciate the seriousness of my situation.
When it's all said and done, Walter goes back to meth, and Yuri goes back to guns, instead of trying to rebuild his life. This movie is really good. Like I said, I could have gone on about like 15 different themes. There is no stretching, just a lot of options. And it's Nick Cage at his best. He's hamming it up just enough. He knows the movie that can stand up without all of that. I feel like he only goes that far when he can't bring anything else in the source material. When he needs something to be interesting, but the movie's just not going to do it without him. So he does it for the movie. But I might be wrong. It could be that he's constantly on coke and just really bored sometimes. Anyway, do all of the YouTube stuff. Add a comment. What's your favorite movie? I might do a review of it if it seems interesting. Like this video. Print out a script of the video, burn it, mix the ashes with gunpowder, and snort it. Then, when you sneeze, people will get this video all over them. It'll take them over. Until next time, this is Sean, your reviewer of movies, signing off.